giving them treatment, trying to keep them occupied with occupational therapy. We had 3 children and I was mostly caring for them and homeschooling them, housewife, mother, and also we had a number of people come in from the villages who would attend to the local doctor, and often they would come to our house and stay for 3 or 4 days because it was too far for them to go back to their own village. We used to also go out and visit the churches as we had time, but majority of the time in the 20 years I was there, majority of the time was taken up in the caring for those persons affected by leprosy. We also had a rehabilitation farm with about 30 residents, so by the totally we had about 100 or more people under our care. On the 23rd of January 1999, my husband and sons had actually gone out to a jungle camp. Now, a jungle camp is actually like a Christian convention of 4 days of meetings for the Christians particularly. Just a chance for them to have some Bible study, some fellowship, and get together, a bit of fun together also. We all like to do those things. This camp was held every year and was one of a series of 6 camps that were held in different places throughout the 2 months of the dry season when the rice harvest was finished, when people had a bit of time. And so they were out at this camp, which was 160 kilometres from where we were living in Baripada. And during the night, some people decided that they didn't like what the Christians were doing, and I guess they targeted the family, thinking that we were probably the cause of everyone becoming Christians. But of course, God is the one who brings people to Himself. We can't forcibly convert anybody. So that's what they were doing at the camp, and they normally slept in the vehicle. Like a long jeep, and they loved it. And being father and son, the boys just loved being with their father, and they'd been up for a walk and collected rocks and all sorts of things. We're just really enjoying themselves. So on that night of the 23rd of January, which was halfway through the camp, a mob of people came in about just after 12 with torches and sticks and beat the vehicle and then set the vehicles on fire. I believe they had actually tried to escape, but it was not possible. The rest of the campers were really afraid. As you can imagine, there's no electricities. It was new moon, so the dead of night, dark as anything. A mob of people. I think most people would be frightened. And so they ran away. Those who did want to come out of their houses and to help, they found their houses had been bolted from the outside.
I heard noises. When I got up, I heard the screams of a child. I tried to come out of the house myself, but 3 people at my door said they would kill me if I did.
So that apparently they couldn't escape, so they died. It appears that it was a planned attack. They planned to go and disturb the Christians, is what we heard. There has been one person that's been called the main accused, and initially he was given the death sentence, which was commuted to life imprisonment. When I think back on it, I said to Esther, actually it was only within a few hours of them actually being killed that day, and it was probably a couple of hours after about 4 hours after I'd heard the initial news that the jeeps had been burnt, though I didn't know what had happened to the family. Esther said to me, "Mummy, what is the news?" And she was 13 at the time. And I said, "It seems like we've been left alone." And that was sort of how I broke the news to her. But we will forgive. I think I said, "Won't we?" And she said, "Yes, Mummy, we will." And so again, those words at that time, "I will forgive," I think started a healing process in my own life, because if we forgive, we can't allow bitterness to come in. I survived the pain that followed the deaths of my 3 family members, only by God's grace, I say. Initially I probably, like, you go into shock, you go into disbelief, but God really enabled me to, that didn't happen to start with, in a sense. It did, but it didn't. But I do remember sometime later when all the crowds had died down and there weren't so many people around, I remember just absolutely weeping to the very depths of my heart where, it was like my whole being was coming out. I think the journey of forgiveness is an ongoing journey in a sense. It's certainly when I forgave the very first, in the very first instance, I guess you could say, I believe that set me on a longer journey. The words I forgive were like starting a healing process. And ever since that time I've had a picture in my mind of, like 2 pictures really, but a picture, when it's dry and barren and a drought. You have dry, parched, cracked land, which we have in few places in Australia at the moment. And then when it rains, that's like the land receives healing and all the cracks heal up and it bursts into, freshness and flowers and grass.
So what is it? This is Graham here and Timothy here.
So even though Exodus says an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, Jesus said in his teaching, he said, though it is written, which means it's referring back to the Old Testament, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. I say, but love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who persecute you. And in Romans it says, Romans chapter 12, it says, bless those who persecute you, and seek to live in harmony with one another. By forgiving the killers, I've been able to, it's been a release to me in a healthy experience, in the sense that I'm not harbouring bitterness and I'm able to move on in life in a sense. But I'm not having to constantly think about those people who killed my husband and what's happening to them, and are they being, given justice? Because again, because I know that God has his ways and will deal with them, but I also pray that they will know God's forgiveness in their own lives. So in that way, it's been a release to me to be able to forgive.